Hi, guys. This week you're going to be learning about fables, folktales, and myths. We've already kind of discussed this a bit at school, but we're going to continue to review. So, what are folktales? Well, they're oral stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. Oral is just a nice way of saying that they're spoken stories. The authors are often unknown, they can be found in all cultures, they're timeless and placeless stories, and these are some different types of folktales you might hear about: fairy tales, fables, myths, legends, and tall tales. Well, what are fables? A fable is a short story. Oftentimes in fables, they'll be talking animals. They have human like characters. They teach a lesson. It typically takes place outside. One problem using trickery, and it ends with a moral or a lesson. What are myths? Myths are tales from ancient civilization. They often include gods and goddesses. They take place nowhere specific. They often explain something that happens in nature by using gods or goddesses. The good is reward and the bad is punished. And you may also see some unusual creatures, magic, and they may teach a lesson. When you go to recount a fable, a folktale, or a myth, you want to ask yourself these questions. What happened at the beginning of the story? Were the characters in the setting introduced? What happened in the middle? What's the problem? And what happened at the end? This is where you'll find the solution and the moral. Well, what is the moral? The moral is the lesson the author wants you or the characters to learn. You want to think about these kinds of things: character traits, the problem and the solution, any character changes, and the lesson that the character learned. You have to think about the main character. Were they good? Were they bad? Were they nice? Were they mean? Were they happy or sad? How did the character change throughout the story and what did they learn? Remember, the author is trying to teach you something as well as the character. How can it influence you? Tell me what you think. Tell me how you would act. Here's an example of a fable. It's called Belling the Cat. The mice once called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, the cat. At least they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming, so they might have time to run away. Indeed, something had to be done, for they lived in such constant fear of her claws that they hardly dared stir from their dens by night or day. Many plans were discussed, but none of them was thought good enough. At last, a very young mouse got up and said, "I have a plan that seems very simple, but I know it will be successful. All we have to do is hang a bell about the cat's necks. When we hear the bell ringing, we will know immediately that our enemy is coming." All the mice were much surprised that they had not thought of such a plan before. But in the midst of rejoicing over their new plan, an old mouse arose and said, "I will say that the plan of the young mouse is very good. But answer me just one question. Who will bell the cat?" So, who are the main characters in this story? What happens at the beginning? What happens at the middle? What happens at the end? And what do the characters learn? What do you think the lesson of this story is?